Dr. Miller, Dr. Haynes, give us a thumbs up if you can hear me. Okay. All right, so this is the first part in a two, maybe three, I'll tell you about the third one here at the end, but two, maybe three-part public health series. As you all know, well, most of you know, we've been doing public information sessions for the past 6 weeks, and it's topic-based. And the whole idea is to help you understand better the different pieces of the response that have been happening in your community and where we are with progress. A lot of progress has been made, but there's still a ton to do. And one of the things that is a priority for us is tackling some of the public health concerns that you all have. And tonight, we're going to be talking about some of the near future public health actions that are either going to happen or potentially going to happen. And I'll introduce Dr. Miller and Dr. Haynes in a moment. But before I do that, I'd like to give the floor to your representative, and let Representative Johnson give you a few remarks.
Well, thank you, Mark. Hey, I'll make this really, really quick because this is your time, not my time. So I make these when I can. I've made a few of them, but so often they happen when I have to be in Washington, D.C. I just happened to leave Washington early this morning and flew into Pittsburgh so I could be here with you this evening. So I'm as anxious as you are to hear what our friends at the National Institute of Health are going to tell you tonight. I made you guys a promise a long time ago, and we'll be keeping that promise. We're not going to be done until you folks are satisfied that every stone has been turned over, that every question has been addressed, every concern and need has been addressed. I'm in this with you for the long haul. And if you're not getting answers to your questions in a timely manner, in the way that you think you should, then all you got to do is reach out to my office. I've got Dawn Baker back here with me this evening. She's got cards with our contact information on it. Many of you have gotten those cards before, and we occasionally get questions from you. And we dig in and try to get you answers. But just know that you've got a voice and an ally with the federal agencies to make sure that we're getting you the answers to the questions that you have. Okay? All right. Let's get on with the program.
Thanks, Congressman. Appreciate that. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is the first of a two-part series. Again, it's a little bit forward-looking. What's coming down the road that can help you in potentially with some research initiatives, some workshops that are going to be planned for hopefully later this summer. Next Tuesday, we're switching from Thursday to Tuesday, and mainly because we wanted to make sure we can get all the people here that you wanted here to do the second part of the public health series, information series. So we'll have CDC, APSDR, your state public health agencies, and your local public health agency. They're going to be here to address some of the top concerns that you've raised to us. It was your request to have them here, so we're bringing them in, and they'll also be available to answer questions. So that's next week. Let's get to tonight. So tonight, I would give you a little bit more introduction about the topic, but I'll let Dr. Aubrey Miller tell you a little bit about what the National Institutes of Health have been tasked to do. And I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Dr. Miller. Dr. Miller and I met back in 2001 when we were responding to the anthrax attacks at Capitol Hill. You remember way back then if you're as old as me. And his work and the work of some of his colleagues helped us complete a successful cleanup to allow those buildings to be reoccupied and ensure that they were safe for human health. And that's his mission at the National Institutes of Health, to provide information, just-in-time resources, and just-in-time research to assist in public health efforts. And so he's been an amazing guy to work with over the years. Also, Dr. Erin Haynes from the University of Kentucky, you may be aware of some of the work that she's already doing to support this initiative, to support this effort. And I believe she has somebody here with us tonight. Oh, there she is. We'll talk a little bit about that when Dr. Haynes describes her role on this situation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Aubrey Miller. Dr. Miller, floor is yours.
Thanks, Mark. Can you hear me okay?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, I hear a little bit of an echo, but I'll do my best. So, as Mark said, I'm currently at the National Institutes of Environmental Health Sciences at the National Institutes of Health, so at NIH. I am an occupational environmental physician by training. I am currently the Deputy Director of our Office of Science Coordination, Planning, and Evaluation at the Director's Office of our Institute. I work with other NIH institutes on thinking about how NIH can contribute to disaster research in the United States and even globally, and how we can bring some of our resources, some of our expertise and experience, and folks like Aaron to be able to help address these issues. As Mark noted, I've been with other agencies. I've worked with CDC, I've worked with EPA, I've worked with FDA. I've worked with agencies a lot, and a lot on the disaster issues and experiences. So with respect to the situation in East Palestine, we've been asked at NIH by your congressional delegations in both Pennsylvania and Ohio to see if NIH could contribute, help untangle some of the research needs and understand some of the public health issues and concerns more fully. With respect to that, we have specifically engaged with the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine. So if folks aren't familiar with the National Academies, it's an independent organization. It's been around since 1863, and they specifically aid the government by bringing in scientific expertise and subject matter experts to opine on policies and issues and situations in a neutral manner, and to bring their expertise to give advice about situations and how to move forward. The National Academies, as a matter of fact, has been involved with a number of public health emergencies, and it has done what's called rapid workshops. They did it for the Gulf oil spill in 2010, and that was held in response to that. We've had it for Hurricane Sandy, the Ebola situation, the Zika situation. So a number of times the Academy's been called upon to bring together experts quickly and effectively to try to look at the situation. So we are currently working with the Academies to pull and to have them develop a rapid workshop in response to the East Palestine train derailment. Hopefully, right now we're working on getting that contract in place, and we will keep you posted about when that workshop will take place. So it'll be a singular workshop, but in order to prepare for the workshop, they bring together, they develop a group of experts. They will identify those experts. They will make sure that the agencies are separate from that, and that the experts can come together, and they will be called upon and charged with looking at all the available information from the community, the exposures, the health impacts, thinking about the types of chemicals that were known to be released, that may have been formed, or things that people are concerned about, to look at that information, to look about what's known about that, and to make recommendations based on their experience and expertise and the available information about what might be some good research opportunities, what might be some health surveillance that might be needed, and make those recommendations and make essentially provide a summary report to the community, to the public, and to the agencies, not just NIH, but to local, state, everyone that's involved about what they think might be some opportunities to look forward. So we'll all look forward to the outcomes of their summary report. Hopefully we will get that in a matter of months within the summer, and have this workshop and get the summary report. So we'll keep you posted about timelines as soon as we know more about when those will be. So that's what we're mainly focusing on right now. Additionally, the NIH, and particularly the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences, where I am at, tries to continue to have and develop a community of practice across the United States of researchers that are interested in working on and contributing to understanding the health impacts of disasters. We have a network, and when the East Palestine derailment situation occurred, we started to have conversations with different research groups and trying to hear about what they thought were important aspects of the situation, important exposures, opportunities to maybe contribute research. At NIH, we fund research, and the research that we fund is based upon thorough review. It's a very rigorous process that looks at the merits of the proposed application, the ethics of it to make sure that it's ethically sound, and goes through an institutional review board, and that it will serve to answer the questions and also serve the community. So those types of applications are starting to come in from researchers to the NIH. They will be reviewed, and NIH will make awards for meritorious research. It definitely takes several months for those types of applications and awards to be made. We have a process that does take some time, and typically at least 4 to 5 months from the initial receipt for certain types of applications. Again, the national academies, we anticipate, will make observations and within their report give us some ideas about the types of things that could come forward, and I suspect the research community will respond and apply for additional types of research that could help us answer the questions that we think are important. One of the charges for the community will be for the national academies will be to engage with the community, so that the voices of the community that are here in the room and other voices that aren't there today can be taken into account, that the information that you may have or your doctors may have can be evaluated and to be considered for their considerations as well. So they will have some time. It won't be just the workshop. They will be reviewing information made available to them beforehand and thinking it through. The types of information that can be provided to them, they will look through and review systematically and to help guide their thoughts and their opinions with respect to this. So as I mentioned, we do have a network and a research community at NIH that of folks that have been working on different types of disasters throughout many years. I personally have had experience doing that myself, but I'm not as involved anymore with doing direct research as I used to be. But someone like here is Erin Haynes, leads the program of environmental epidemiology at the University of Kentucky. And Erin, we also have an NIH center at the University of Kentucky that focuses on environmental health. And Erin has been also engaged not only in Ohio, but working on disasters. And I'll let Erin talk a little bit about the type of work and types of engagement she's had, not only in her past, but around kind of now with the Norfolk Southern train derailment situation. So I'll take it away, Erin.
Great, thank you, Aubrey. So hello, everyone. I really wish I was in person. So please wave. I want to feel like I'm in your room and in the space. Thank you. I see the waves. Thank you. So I'm an Ohio resident. I love Ohio, but I do work in Kentucky. So I am wearing UK blue, but don't be offended. I have reds and Bengals, and not Cleveland so much, but Bengals out of the way. I'm a trained environmental health scientist. I did a toxicology degree at the University of Cincinnati, and then I worked for EPA as a contractor for a little bit, but went on to get my doctorate in public health at the University of Michigan. Sorry again, Ohio. But it's, I know, I had to explain it to the fam. But anyway, came back And I worked at the University of Cincinnati, but my passion has always been to provide as much assistance as possible in the research world for communities, particularly Eastern Ohio, Appalachian areas, because that's where I grew up. I grew up in Adams and Brown County in Ohio, to provide them with science, cutting edge, the most rigorous science we can get, and research studies. So one of my staff members, who still is working with me, lives in Rogers, which is nearby, and Dolores Silverthorne is her name. She can wave. Excellent. She's worked with me for, 15 years. She's nodding. We've worked in East Liverpool, and they have quite a bit of exposure, potential things that we've been looking at. We looked at manganese for a long time, and now we're interested in PFAS and other chemicals related to, different industries in their community. And I've also worked with Marietta, Ohio, and then some with oil and gas across the state. So when the train derailment occurred, it was a shock. It was just this huge tragedy. And Dolores we were sending texts back and forth about what the communities were, the neighboring communities were experiencing, and the tragedy. And I think she asked me, what are we going to do about it? And I was like, okay, we must. This is where we jump in, and I love to get involved. So it took I'm going to say a long time, but it wasn't until April that we launched an East Palestine train derailment health study. The initial step is a survey. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it's meaningful. So if you're interested in participating, of course, we have flyers, and it's an easy QR code. If you need a hard copy, we can get it to you. But as you heard from one of your federal representatives, we are in this for the long haul. I don't want to let you go until you know what the exposures may have been, and what possible health outcomes you could be facing now, and then even in the future. So this survey is the beginning point, and Aubrey represents the NIH, which is a funding institute. They have internal grants and do work, but they also provide research grants. So yes, I have a grant in. I hope it gets scored well and reviewed well. But part of it is to fund this survey and then take it further. Internally at the University of Kentucky, yes, Kentucky will give money to Help Ohio, which is great. So I have a pilot I'm working on this is one of my goals, is in talking to some of the residents and you, what are the biomarkers of exposure? So I know some have gone to your physician and asked for biomarker testing. So, and I've been looking at that exact question. What would be the markers? Like, how could you know that if you had been exposed? And it's a great question. So I've been working with different colleagues across the U.S. and we're building methods even now, and we want to do a pilot. So one of the next steps following this survey is to invite just a small handful, maybe 20, to come and have urine and blood drawn. And that will be my goal now. We're trying for June, but I think it's going to get into July, because we want to make sure we have this down. The protocol is pretty intense. There's several tubes of blood that need to be drawn, and we are going to be looking for potential biomarkers of exposure in this small subset. And that will tell us if we need to go bigger and do a larger broad scale study. So I'm really excited to be able to do it in a comprehensive way, so we can give you answers instead of, I know individuals have these, but I want to see what it looks like in a group combined with survey, etc. The next piece that we also are planning with participants of this the survey, we're going to invite about 100 to wear a wristband that can actually absorb some chemicals from the environment, and then that can be analyzed. So we'll ask individuals to wear them for a week, and then they'll be analyzed at Duke University. So we have many, I'm trying to bring in the best experts that we can. And you haven't seen this work yet, you maybe not have heard of it, but I want you to know that there are many scientists across the US who deeply care and have been building projects to provide you with assistance. I wish it didn't take so long to be able to provide them and bring them to your community. But it also takes time to figure out exactly what to do, because we want to do it right. And so that when we're done, you're closer to answers. So I would love to take questions, and I want to hear a dialogue. I will have some survey data presented. River Valley Organizing is hosting a Facebook Live event on Sunday. So if you look at their Facebook page, I'm invited to share the prelim data from the survey. I'm going to say we only have 177 people, and I want thousands. We really want to know the entire community, not just a subset. So tell your friends and neighbors too. It will be it's comprehensive, and we're going to follow you over time. So this is not the one survey. We want to look at you long term. So if you're asking for research, it's coming, and it will stick around for a long time. It will be over years.
Thanks, Dr. Haynes. I appreciate that. Congressman Johnson does have a quick question.
Actually, I've got several questions. Dr. Haynes, one of the things that you mentioned is this group of, say, 20 that you're going to collect blood and urine from.
Yep.
I know my office has gotten calls about residents here that have been denied blood and urine tests by their insurance companies because the physicians and the insurance companies said, hey, this train derailment occurred February 3rd. Anything that you had in your system would have already worked its way through, and the blood and urine is not going to tell us anything about any symptoms that you're having right now. So what are you expecting to find, or what could you find in these biomarkers this long after the train derailment?
Love that question. I asked that myself. So one thing we are measuring, we're going to look at different categories, different classifications of dioxin. I know dioxin has been a concern in the soil, and I'm like, we need to measure it in the human. Let's measure it in the body. So
does the dioxin stay?
Yep.
They stay in the system, so you'll be able to pick that up?
Yes. Now,
okay. There
is a degradation over time, but it should still be there. Now, based on some of the EPA, the data that's been presented, I'm in the soil. I guess my hypothesis would be that the levels would be very low because the soil did not look radical. I wasn't really, I'm gonna say scared. I wasn't too heavily concerned when I saw the EPA soil data, but we're doing it anyway because I want to, check that box, cross that off and say we didn't see it in those who we think might be most potentially exposed.
Okay, all right.
Other chemicals, do you want to hear about the other ones?
Sure.
So vinyl chloride definitely would have been gone. However, some of the residents, maybe even in the room tonight, have received a test and said they found a vinyl chloride metabolite in their urine. So the question is where is it coming from? Is it from other sources? Is it from, so this will be just a more comprehensive way. We'll have it combined with survey data. And maybe there's exposures still occurring. They're still digging, removing soil. So I don't know. Let me just say, I don't know. I haven't seen any air data. I don't know, maybe this group has near the site while they're doing this second phase. But I think it's definitely worth pursuing. So again, the community has a list of questions. We can help them begin to cross things off.
Yeah, I
There's a
think,
lot to do it.
yeah, I think the EPA has got that air data from near the soil, so they can provide that to you like right now. The other question that I have is for the gentleman from NIH. Two very quick questions. One, when you give out grants for research, obviously there are parameters around that research that you don't just take random applications in. You tell researchers what you're looking for. What guidance did you give the researchers that you're looking at to do research in East Palestine? That's one question. The second question is, have you got examples where you've done this kind of extensive research for a similar incident like a chemical exposure from a train derailment, or maybe it wasn't a train derailment, maybe it was a truck, I don't know, maybe it was a factory explosion or whatever it was. So 2 questions. One, what guidance did you give the potential researchers, and what are they going to be looking for? And number 2, can you cite some examples of when NIH actually oversaw or conducted this type of extensive research over time in a similar situation?
Yeah, and thank you for the questions. So the research applications that are open now, it's called time-sensitive grants, and that's kind of an open. It's kind of an open platform for applying for research that can be funded more quickly, smaller scale projects, kind of these scoping investigations, maybe something like Aaron's proposing or other applicants that can be funded in a shorter time frame and that are time sensitive, so the data can be collected and it's more perishable. Tends to be more perishable types of data. We don't have the fastest mechanisms either, so unfortunately we would love to have mechanisms that we could get researchers to the field even faster, but we just don't have that mechanism currently available to us at NIH. With that said, so this is these grant applications are kind of open, so there's not a great they are formally, I can put that in the link. It outlines the type of information and be responsive. And I don't have all that information with me now about like all the specificities of that application process because I'm not involved in the review of that program. But it's all on the web, and I can certainly share that and a link to that program, and that allows researchers to come in and put in an application for that. Aaron's probably even give you greater details of that application process since I don't field those, but because I'm in the director's office, so that goes to the extramural program offices. With that said, NIH has been involved in funding researchers to all sorts of things, whether it's hurricanes, excuse me, hurricanes. I mentioned the Gulf oil spill was one that had a lot of activity from the extramural community that was involved in the Gulf oil spill, and a lot of different research groups came together, worked together in different spaces, and answered questions, both community questions, worked with worker groups and did worker-related questions. So there was a number of different things. So I would say NIH researchers are pretty much involved in just about every situation that's happening across the country, from wildfires to hurricanes to flooding to tornadoes, looking at different types of situations and questions and applying their skills and knowledge. Aaron's been involved in several, so and we could certainly pull out a whole slew of different types of research that we funded in response. We were just looking at our portfolio in response to kind of climate change related disaster work, and the 350 climate change grants, a good almost I think 100 were related to disaster related type situations, and that doesn't include ones that are non-climate related. So I can certainly provide you with more detail of the specific research that's been done on different ones. I personally was working on the Gulf oil spill. That continues to to go on, and our work groups are continuing to do work with respect to that. But looked at a range of different things when we were elsewhere. Looked at seafood to health effects on pregnant women to health effects on community and cleanup workers. So each situation has a different kind of groups that will be involved, different researchers that may become involved in different things. And one thing that that we've been very engaged with at our institute is community engaged research, and research that we certainly try to facilitate and to promote is the researchers to work very closely with impacted communities to identify the research issues of concern and to have them fully engaged in the research process as part of a partnership with the researchers. So I think I'm really proud about the National Institute of Environmental Health Sciences in its efforts to really promote community engaged research in response to these disaster situations, but also for other environmental health issues that are not disaster as well.
Thanks, Dr. Miller. So Jamie's approaching the microphone. So the way we're going to do this tonight, when you ask our presenters the question, please go to the microphone so they can hear you and we can get it on the recording. So Jamie, please.
My first question is for Dr. Haynes. We currently have children in town that are testing positive for vinyl chloride. Some of them that have been evacuated and had to come back in town for a limited time for things such as testing. So I know that, we keep getting told that this vinyl chloride testing could be due to lifestyle changes or lifestyle choices. We're seeing over double the limits in adults and seeing limits in children. So with those things being reported, would you suggest that it's a good idea for us to be holding events in town and inviting people in to go to fairs and stuff like that when the testing isn't done? Is that concerning that the kids are testing positive?
You ask big questions, don't you, Jamie?
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
You're not holding back. Put me on that thought. All right. I'm going to say you have a couple questions in there. So, one, are children impacted, exposed? Should we be concerned about them in their lives? Yes. I don't know. Let me just tell you about vinyl chloride briefly. You won't see it exactly in the urine. You can't measure it as a vinyl chloride, but you can measure metabolites. So it changes, and other chemicals can also turn into those chemicals. So it's not entirely unique. However, I'm going to give another plug. When I am presenting on Sunday, but I am on Facebook Live, but I invited with me, because of these great questions about metabolites, I invited a physician who is trained in environmental health. His name is Dr. Nick Newman. He's going to be there on the call live. So I want to encourage you to come and hear him speak directly on this topic Sunday, Facebook Live, on RVO's website. So you asked if they should go to fairs. Well, I heard there was EPA air data near the track, so I think I haven't seen that yet. I should have, if it's posted online, I didn't look, but I would, as a mom, I would look at that air data and then make the right choices for me and my family. If children start responding, lungs, any symptoms, moms, if your child's responding, then I would remove them.
But can't they be exposed even though they're not experiencing symptoms? Mark said
an acute response could be evident. Long-term chronic is a different story.
My second question, I guess whoever can answer it, it's kind of two-part too, because I like two-part questions. The first one is, I've talked to different researchers that are coming in, and one of them talked about doing DNA testing. Can you test the DNA to see about exposure? The second part of this is kind of in general. When this research is being done, are they looking at what the effects the combination of the chemicals have on the body? I know the EPA is not currently looking at that, and when they test, they expose for reportable levels, they test those subjects just with a single chemical.
Yeah.
So for example, they're only testing for vinyl chloride exposure. So what happens when it's below reportable levels, but you have the number of chemicals in the environment that we have? Is there anything being talked about in regards to that?
So I love your multiple questions, and one, I'm gonna say that the term we call is mixtures. And have you been exposed to a mixture? Yes, definitely. Now, what are all of those chemicals, or even what were they at the time, I'm gonna say of peak exposure? I don't know what they all were, but we know that there was a mixture, and it, so when you have an exposure and it would enter into your body, you would either breathe it into your nose or your mouth, or you could ingest with water. Those are the routes of how you're exposed. Your DNA can be, I'm going to say affected, not with every chemical, but some chemicals can change things in the DNA. Not that it's going to program you to grow another arm or something, but it might change you to have long-term cancer outcomes, for instance. So I think the tests they're proposing, and I don't know if you talk to individuals at Case Western.
Yeah.
But, yep. All right, so I've chatted with them because I want to know who's doing what so that we can coordinate ourselves. So we're not all bombarding you with do this study, and you not knowing all the details and what each measure means. I think it's really important for you to know.
Yeah, talk to you guys about that later, about coordinating some of the efforts.
Yes.
And just my last comment to Mr. Johnson, if I could talk to you afterwards. I filled out that form on February 15th and I never heard back from you after that.
I spoke with you at the first town hall meeting. You
Right.
were the lady that said you had a letter saying that your house was uninhabitable.
No, I have a video. I live right across the creek and you said that you would contact me, and I've called your office multiple times since then and I've gotten no response, so I would like to speak with you.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay, thank
But you said you had a letter
No, I said I have a video.
that said that your home was uninhabitable. And we asked you to get us that video, and we haven't heard from you.
I've been calling.
We've emailed you several times, but
Right.
we'll talk
Yeah.
tonight and we will connect those
Right,
dots.
because I've called your office and I've recorded every time I've called and left a message, and it was at least.
We've got recordings
Thank
too.
you. I appreciate it.
Okay, so a couple,
Check them out.
I know, first of all, I do want to respond to a couple of those points because they do involve environmental monitoring, which is our responsibility, right? But before that, does somebody else have, do other folks have a question? Okay, so you're next.
Yeah, and I just wanted to respond too. And so some of those questions are things that the National Academies group will be looking at, right? So that they will think about some of the tests and the value of them and what they might show, and how, is that something that should be pursued? Is that useful? Then, and having information like Aaron was suggesting could be, really helpful too. So they could think about, okay, what was found? What was seen in this group of 20 if that data is available, et cetera. But, things about cumulative exposures and mixed exposures and things like that is another area for them to give thought to.
Yeah. And thanks, Aubrey. And on the environmental monitoring point, so Dr. Haynes knows we do have an extensive air monitoring system set up. We've talked about this. We had an information session on that. We have not seen any exceedances in the community for vinyl chloride or butyl acrylate, which are our two primary chemicals of concern. But we are sampling for a whole range of bulk organic chemicals. Our soil and waste samples cover a whole span of different parameters. I mean, we probably have 200,000 data points out there. So the data is there. It's not very easy to look at from a layman's perspective, and that's one of the challenges, communications challenges we have. We know, and that's one of the reasons we're definitely willing to sit down and show you what that data looks like, where to find it, how to interpret it. So, but it is there, and it's not just one or two chemicals. It's a whole host of chemicals, hundreds of chemicals. So, the next question was right here. Feel free to come up and use the microphone, please.
Aaron, and Aaron, I was wondering if you would be willing to reach out to Dr. Welton and maybe see if he could share some of his research, because the EPA has admitted that some of their testing has been subpar, and I feel like he's somebody that the community trusts, and he has no skin in the game, and I feel like that would be very beneficial to your study.
Yes, I do. I have talked with Andrew Welton. Yes, thank you. The Census you're referring to at in Indiana.
Purdue.
Yes, thank you.
That's something I was gonna do, Aaron, is put all the researchers in contact.
Thanks. Thank you. Linda, you have a question?
I do. Hi, Dr. Haynes. I have concerns, as does the entire room of folks here, about exactly what this gal just said, as far as the efficiency or the fine tuning of the testing being done by the EPA. There's a little bit of question here that we have as far as the air monitoring. You know, is it really picking up the levels of concern as it should? Is it checking for the things that it should? And myself, I live outside of the 1 mile parameter, and there's nobody testing my air or my soil. But I had independent testing, and it came back a little bit alarming. So with that being said, I myself tested for the thiodichloric acid in my system, which is what is put off by the vinyl chloride. And what we are hearing, as what Jamie mentioned, you know, it's a lifestyle product possibility. Absolutely. Well then, let's go 6 towns over. Let's go another state over.
Right.
What's their lifestyle products doing? Is that creating thiodichloric acid in them as well and in their children? So we're really concerned. We're really fearful, and we're looking for people to trust. And you know, we're so appreciative that you're participating and reaching out to us and giving us access to hopefully some answers. So I guess it's more of a comment than a question, because I think we're just kind of used to our questions not being answered, so I don't even ask them anymore. But thank you.
Well, every question I've heard tonight has been exactly, you are all scientists living this experience with absolutely perfect questions. And we researchers need to hear your questions so that we can build the study with you to help answer them.
And I'll give you one example too, and folks had asked before about other research, so I'll go back to the Gulf oil spill, and folks were really concerned about the seafood that they were consuming on the Gulf Coast. A lot of folks were subsistence living on a lot of the seafood and ate a lot more than the federal recommendations about how much, or that was thinking about how much they ate, and FDA put out guidelines about saying the seafood was safe, and people came back and said, well, they don't really know what I'm eating, because they looked at different kinds of seafood and they didn't know about the amounts that we eat down here on the Gulf Coast, because we eat a lot more and we really don't think it's safe. And I saw some of the seafood that wasn't, you know, looking that good to me, etc. So the researchers in Florida worked with the communities and went out with the fishermen and went out with the folks and actually got that same seafood and looked together, did the research, and actually for themselves established that it in fact was safe. So the importance of having independent researchers working with communities, you know, just like Mark was saying about what they're finding from EPA, is really helpful to help everybody understand what's being seen, to work together and to, you know, look at it from different angles, answer the questions together, and be able to apply the best of science together.
Thanks, Aubrey. We have another question.
Yes, my name is Lori O'Connell, and I live in Darlington Township, Pennsylvania, which is east of East Palestine. I would hope that you could light a fire under our government and our state and our EPA and our department, everybody, because we all were tested. I tested positive for bedseed. My husband and my daughter were tested a month later and tested the highest that the doctor had seen in the metabolites of the vinyl chloride. Now, my daughter, you wanna talk about lifestyle, I have a 24-year-old daughter who's been throwing up since February 3rd. Now, I went to my doctor and he just blew it off as, oh, she has the flu, or she has this, or she has that. I can assure you that we have never been this sick. I've lived in the same home for 25 years. We have never been this sick. We've had cold after cold, sore throats, headaches, eyes, eye problems, blurry eyes, name it, we've had it. But they're telling me because I live 3.4 miles from the derailment that it's in my head. But yet I have positive tests from my doctor that state otherwise.
Wow.
So, you know, and my husband and daughter were just tested at the beginning of May.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not from lifestyle because there's no smoking, there's no anything. My husband takes B12, which I know can possibly do it. My 24-year-old daughter takes nothing. Nothing. So it has to be it had to come my way. When the wind blows, we get all of the side effects. I woke up last night, the air smelled so bad. It was disgusting. And I will tell you, I wear a CPAP machine at night, and I smelled it through that. I had to shut my window, and I posted online at 2:30 this morning how bad the air smelled, and other people were telling me that it was that bad in East Palestine. So if you're gonna tell me, I don't think they're monitoring any of our air in Pennsylvania because we're just winging it, okay? I'm being told that the well tests are coming back fine, the soil samples are all coming back fine, but you know what? I don't believe it. I don't. Their numbers and my numbers, or the private numbers, are not matching. There's a problem here. So, you know, I understand East Palestine took the brunt of this, okay? But those of us that are east of this town, we are getting hammered too, and getting nothing. Nobody cares. I hope you guys do.
Yes, yes, we care. So, that just breaks my heart, and I wanna know more. I wanna know, like, where did you have those samples taken? What physician's office, what lab? Maybe we can, email later. But the survey, I know it's like a gateway to research.
Right.
It's for every county surrounding Columbiana. I wanted to go as big as possible to let every story be told, not just the 1 to 2 mile radius. So there could be hundreds of, 100,000 people that could be, that should take this survey and report their symptoms.
Okay, will do.
Please do it, please, you're included.
We have some people waiting. Can we get to them first? Sorry, Kristen, you first, then Kristen. Sorry.
What
So
was her name again?
we'll get
Can you
there.
repeat her name? The woman in the pink?
Oh, my name?
Karen.
Yes.
Lori.
Lori
O'Connell.
Okay.
Lori
I'm gonna-
O'Connell.
Lori O'Connell. We'll get email connected. Dolores can help connect. I would love to talk to you.
Okay.
Hello, this question is for Dr. Haynes. My name is Misty Allison, and I live in East Palestine. I'm right behind the high school. So my question is, who specifically qualifies to participate in your study? And then, this is a multiple question like Jamie's, but if community members participate, what types of information do they receive in return? And how quickly do we receive that information? Because I would say my biggest concern, and I would say other community members' concern, is that we are very interested in participating, but we don't want to be long-term test subjects. We want to make sure that we're getting our own individual test results, and we're getting that in a quick way so we can make the best health choices for our families and our loved ones. Thank you.
Great question. So who's eligible? The survey itself, we made it for 18 years and older just because of convenience, and kids, I know kids use devices really well, but 18 and older, any resident who lives in the counties in Columbiana and everyone surrounding Columbiana. There's a picture on our webpage that's in Pennsylvania, that shows the picture of the counties, but it's Pennsylvania, Hancock in West Virginia, and then all around Columbiana. I probably went too far, but I was like, I'm not leaving anyone out. So it's everyone who, and if you are 18 and over. Now, we care about kids. All of my research studies have been focused on pediatrics and children and their exposures because that's usually typically the number one question of communities. How does it affect our kids? So we ask questions about your children. If you want to answer them, are they experiencing anything? So we wanted to include them, but not have them do this. You asked another great question, which was about report, like when would you receive results back? So the survey results, you are able to download a copy of yours. It's like a symptom report because we do ask what you experienced. You can download that right away into like a PDF, and if you have trouble with it, we can send it to you. I wanted you to also have the ability to have a report, like this is what you experienced on this day. The follow-up surveys and studies, that data would be given to everyone who participates, their individual data. And we want to make it as clear as possible. This was your value, this was the group's value and how you look in the group, and then if there's any national data to compare it against. Because understanding the exposure level, the metabolite level or whatever it is, only really means something in my mind if you have a comparison. What does it compare to? So we're going to provide that, and then with more information, and then a physician, probably Nick Newman, who you can call and ask more questions to if need be. Any of the other research, any research that I do has, it's mandatory in my mind that we give the data back to the people as soon as we have it. We spend hours over report back letters. You can ask Loris, we pain over them. Like, is this understandable? Let's read it again. And then I love to get feedback. So if anything doesn't make sense or isn't clear, it's really something we pursue. So it's very important. We also then give community level data because we want the community to be able to take action, not individual data. That's yours. You can do with it whatever you want. I also want to say that it's free. There will be no charge for any of this testing. Nothing coming out of your personal pockets, bank accounts. This was covered right now. It's mostly internal funding that I have that I was given to going to UK, and I'm happy to give it back. But I'm also a part of one of a funded center that Dr. Miller mentioned, the NIH funded Environmental Health Core Center. So I'm a deputy director of our center, and I'm using those funds also. Any other questions?
Yep, Chrissy and then Jake. We got about 10 minutes left, just so you all know.
Hi.
Oh, only 10? Okay, keep going.
I wanted to say thank you very much. I believe it was your daughter that got in touch with me and had told me that you guys were coming to help. I tested positive for the vinyl chloride metabolite. My family, you were in my home and acknowledged. The problem is the creek goes underneath my home through the tunnels, and when the creek floods, I get that water in my basement, so I cannot have my family back in my home until that creek is not polluted. I got them out. They helped us with housing, but I continued to come to work every day in East Palestine. And 20 minutes into my work day, you would start feeling that. Different side effects. That'll take up too much time to go through them. I'll explain them to you later. But I had to leave my job recently from 15 years in East Palestine because I had to go to the Cleveland Clinic to a urologist to actually get help with any of this, and he said that I am still being exposed to have that in my urine. He did list it as chemical exposure, and I praise God for his truthfulness because it's very difficult right now for the residents having issues to find anybody to step up and say, it was the chemicals from the tree. So, he told me that I had to remove myself from it. So when I have to come into town, I have to pick, like important events like this. I didn't want to not be here. But I can't be here every day, so I will definitely come to you, do the testing, do everything that you need. But will you also have a way of trying to, like, treat us for this so we could get it out of our system, or is this just strictly a study with no medical help? And that was my question.
That's a great question, and I want to know who you are also. Dolores can get your email. I'm at Dolores' job. I want to know who that physician was in Cleveland. This is a step process. We're going to find out what the exposures are in the community as much as we can, and then finding out how to remove it from your system and what to do. That is, if only I knew right now, I would love that. But let's say that is the next step. Let's find out what the chemicals are. Let's look and then make that plan. And you bringing that question up makes me want to answer it. So I'm glad that you mentioned it, because now it's on the to-do list. But you added another to-do list.
The information from these studies, from the academies, all of that will go back to help inform agencies and health departments, and we to start thinking about how do we better address what we're seeing in folks and what we're seeing with folks.
Jake?
Yes, I have a question. I tested positive for the vinyl chloride metabolite. I had a series of tests done. My first test showed a non-detecting benzene. I just got another result back on Tuesday that showed a detect of benzene in my blood. You know, I feel like a lab rat instead of a patient. That's plain and simple. But as a census of everybody that I've talked to, mostly in the people that I know, the CDC set these guidelines that it is so hard for us to get tested. There's only a couple doctors doing these tests, and you're lucky to even get it done through the CDC guidelines, because I have a recording of my health physician, which is Mercy Health, one of the biggest ones around here, that fought to get this testing done. So I guess my question to you is, you guys are not coinciding with the CDC or anything, as far with the CDC, because so far, 14 CDC members came in here, 7 of them got sick. Mark's bringing them in next week, or if they're going to be on video or nothing, but we haven't seen the CDC or anything since then. And people are getting sicker and sicker. There's more people. We're up to probably, I'm not going to give the exact amount because I don't know, but around 80 people that's tested positive for vinyl chloride and benzene at high levels. My testing the first time was minimal, and now, as months go on, it's getting higher and higher. Now, I could see if it was our lifestyle, it being the same, because I haven't changed my lifestyle. So for us to get tested for the second, third time, and it's getting higher and higher, and now I'm detecting benzene, which was a non-detector first time, I feel that there's more to the story, and I just wanted to make sure, like I said, Mercy Health, for the CDC to set these guidelines, was a smack to every one of our faces.
Yeah. It just breaks my heart. But the survey, there's a option if you've been tested before by a physician, and I would love to document. The more data we have as a whole, we can tell a bigger story. Like here are the levels across the community. So take the survey, put your value in, and we can share it. In a story, it would make more sense combined with everyone. You mentioned 80 people. That's amazing. Let's do it.
Okay,
Wow.
So we are at 7 o'clock, so you're definitely going to get to ask your question. And we can have time for one or two more. I know Russ has one, and then you have a question for me. Okay, so these, all right, we got these three. Quick one. All right, so we got 4 quick questions.
I actually have a two-parter, but I'll try to make it quickly. I'm Barbara Georgescu. I lived on Alice Street. Now I'm living in Michigan. And my first question is for you guys, the EPA. A friend of mine saved all the newspapers and everything has come out. I read them all in the last 2 days and I'm kind of confused. But one thing I read is the EPA for the last 15 years has been trying to lower the level of exposure. I think it's for dioxin or vinyl chloride, I think. Which is it? And why don't they ever lower the exposure level?
So I'm not sure what you're referring to, but I know our agency, well, let me answer.
Yeah.
I know our agency has been working to lower the thresholds for human health. Yeah,
Yes.
exactly,
That's right.
across a wide range of chemicals. So that's been a common practice for years. Somebody mentioned PFAS earlier, where the levels for PFAS contamination are, as we relook at the science, that's coming down. Our lead level for lead exposure.
Do you ever have any luck to get anything lower?
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. The new PFAS standards will be lower. So, yes,
Because behind this, I'm wondering if some of these safety levels you have are really safe. My second question is, in 1993, I finished a paper I wrote on East Palestine called Region Under Siege. It was for a thesis. And I wrote about Columbiana County and Beaver County, which Beaver County is filthy. This was about the trends of and safety of the environment. And at the end, I found in a clip file in the Beaver County Times a very interesting quote, and it was about radiation. And Dr. Ernest Sternglass from the University of Pittsburgh said that he was finding rogue radiation in the wells in Aliquippa and in the milk. So they got together with Milton Chaff and the doctor and all the people, and they were trying to find a safety level for radiation. And finally a doctor said, he said, the problem is with people is you have this wide line of people. Over here you have the canaries, the unborn, the little babies, the old people, people with immune problems. Then as you go further on, they're less susceptible. Finally get over here, and you might find a person exposed to a lot of radiation who never gets leukemia 30, 40, 50 years. It's something to do with who they are. And so I see the same problem going on here. Some people are sick and they're wanting help. Other people are healthy and not exposing it, and they're not really understanding each other. And I'm wondering about, can you really have safe standards for benzene or any of these things? What they say about radiation is every dose is an overdose. Maybe they should say that about vinyl chloride or dioxin.
You make great points, and unfortunately, we are exposed to benzene every time we pump gas into our cars, and so we have to recognize in the environmental world that we live in this industrialized society that we live in, we are being exposed to chemicals every single day. The question is, and the reason I'm happy that our researchers are engaging is what happened here? Is that created a different paradigm for health?
It appears so.
Well, that's why the researchers are here. So thank you for your question. I appreciate that. Who was next? Russ, and then you and you. Right? Oh, who was it? Oh, yeah. Okay. Come on, Russ.
Hi there. Question for Doc Aubrey, Mr. Miller.
Yeah.
I'll switch gears a little bit. Our health is hugely important. I get that, but I'm an avid outdoorsman. And I don't know with you behind you with the environmental health science in the heading, when I harvest or shoot an animal, we eat it, as you can tell. So does the family. I mean, you know, with the independent testing we're getting, with this TCDDs that are in the soil, I mean, do you have any advice on should we be eating our wildlife?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, and that would be even your pets and things like that, right? So, you know, it can affect food and water, and you know, so if these exposures, whether it's from the derailment or other releases of chemicals into our food and water and vegetation supplies are accumulating, then they're going to pose a risk. I can't tell you the specifics about the issue of you eating that specific animal in your specific environment because I don't have data about it. But with respect to that being a potential concern, for sure it could be a concern, and you don't know where, you know, again, if someone's fishing out of the waters that may be contaminated, or fishing in another location that could be contaminated for another reason, you know, those fish could be potentially contaminated as well. So we're hoping that some of the agencies that are also engaged will continue to, I know FDA and Department of Agriculture are agencies that are also gathering data. Some of it I think will be helpful to this understanding that the specific question that you just brought up about our animals, both wild and domestic, being contaminated. And what about people that have livestock in the area? Would that be an area of concern?
Right. And it's, Yep, perfect. And as far as getting gas, when you pump some benzene fuse, their 4,800 fish don't end up dead in the creek.
That is a fact. That is a fact. Thanks, Russ. All right, 2 more questions, but before, come on up. But before we get to those questions, a couple last notes. So we thought that you would only have a few questions for our guests. I'm glad that you kept them busy all night. In the second part of this, we were going to ask you to provide us some questions that you would like us to propose, give to CDC for next week. So since we are out of time, anybody with an EPA shirt on, catch one of us. If there's a question on your mind that you want them to address next week, give it to us. We'll write it down. We'll make sure they see it. Or, Catherine, on our newsletter, there's an email box that you can send your question to. Okay, so please, and please do that by tomorrow so they are prepared to address your concerns. That's important. Make sure that your concerns are addressed. Okay, so, and then after these 2 questions, I'd like to ask our congressman to close us out. So, please.
Yes, hello, my name is Summer Magnus. I have a question that actually involves, it would be your group, as well as your group, as well as more folks out there. So when you are going to send out your surveys, which will also go to the external counties of Columbiana, do you not think that a registry from the Assistance Center, which should be pulled and provided for more folks Southern as well, to obtain information to quantify what you're actually going for and how many residents have left the area that will not be able to be contacted, that don't want to be contacted, which could be their choice at that time, that would have a time frame showing when they were in and out of the community to use as a backlog, or to, not backlog, but actually to map and quantify your information, because that's what's gonna make this. And I see that we have an issue in this town. Being a resident of this community all my life, there are many, many residents that are not willing to come out and to say anything about how they feel. I mean, it's very prevalent that they seek to talk to someone, but they don't want to talk to someone. My case in point of my own. I mean, it's me against my husband on, is it right, is it wrong? It doesn't really matter. I'm a mom, and I'm the same as everyone here. We just don't want to be sick. So I want to know if Norfolk Southern is also going to participate in your studies to provide a list, because I can tell you that my neighbors are gone. How are we going to communicate to these people if they're not looking on a website? What is the role of large numbers, which is how you obtain your information on any kind of insurance, anything else, risk management plan? Is that going to be implemented and done so we can do it right the first time and have quantified information that has backup, and that people can actually
get their hands on the survey and make it in good faith that they're not going to have reprimands from the community or other people that don't feel the same as them, because they won't speak out if we can't get in touch with them. That's my question for everyone.
So, thank you, and I'll address that initially, Aaron. So with respect to getting a hold of Norfolk Southern to ask about at least getting the information to the folks that they may have listed, I don't know how exactly their communication process works with the residents. However, we can bring that up to them. We'll do that tomorrow. So.
I think it would be good to ask them, because I can tell you, I don't know where my neighbors have moved to, but they were there.
Yeah, and my only concern could be that, you know, the way the reimbursement process may work is that, you know, they bring in their information, they get it reimbursed. The company may not know where they're staying. So.
Right.
So, but again, we'll ask the question. We will follow up on that. So, did you have anything else to add, Aaron, or?
Yeah, I just want to say that the confidentiality and the privacy is very, very important. We have a certificate of confidentiality provided by the NIH so that your data maintains confidence, it's confidential within the study team itself. That's it. So any survey responses that you give are confidential. So that is a private space.
Absolutely.
And so please share those individuals that did move. The survey is just out there, it's open, it's online. So we're not door-to-door handing surveys, where it's online. So there's a QR code, there's a website, just go click in, get the consent, agree. The individuals on the Norfolk Southern list could be emailed the survey. I mean, I don't know how to connect with them.
Yeah, if they would participate in the events, to contact these people.
Yeah.
If there's a way even to, because they're no longer available within the community. I mean, half of the town is left. And I don't even know what the quantifiable amount is at this time of the people that the residents have opted for the temporary relocation, or, you know, did it permanent.
About 10%.
Okay. Thank you. No, and we'll do that follow-up for you. And
I think it's a 10% number.
And my question's for Dr. Haynes. Dr. Haynes, I'm an attorney and I'm the local community liaison named by Federal Judge Pearson, class action for all these people. And it's a simple question. You mentioned wristbands that one of the studies is through Duke University may use. And the question is there a technical name for those wristbands? Do they measure exposure through the air, through the person's skin, and how long have they been used?
Great question. The wristband, there's no technical name. It's a silicone wristband. So you probably have them on. Someone's got them on in there right now. But this one is, they clean them. The wristband absorbs the chemicals. We are only able, the list of chemicals that we're going to include right now are the PAHs. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, like combustion type chemicals. So I wish that the technology could do vinyl chloride, but the test, we don't have that, but we have. I chose the best chemical we could. So that is the class of chemicals that we're able to do, but the sample itself will be extracted and stored so that maybe in the future there's a new technique that could analyze different chemicals. The chemicals come from the air. It's a passive device. So when you wear it on your wrist, you wear it in the you constantly wear it. We're going to ask people to do it for 7 days. It's been worn by firefighters, by communities that have faced not this exposure but other exposures, and the data can be very helpful. It's mainly from the air. But if you put lotion on, a whole bunch of skin lotion, we do ask questions, and we give some advice on what to do when you're wearing it. But essentially, just put it on, and don't do anything special. Just do your normal.
all right, thank you all. Congressman Johnson.
Yeah, let me just close it out by saying this. Dr. Haynes, Dr. Miller, thank you both very much for being here. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause. She said two things that I want to put an exclamation point on. She said the reason that they are here is because your congressional delegation asked them to do that. That's me. That's the reason that they are here. I am not an expert. I am not a doctor. I am not a physicist. I am not a chemist. I am not that kind of a scientist. I'm a computer scientist by trade. But what I can do is connect you with experts throughout the federal bureaucracy, whether it's NIH, CDC, EPA, whoever that is. I cannot answer directly many of your health-related concerns, and you would not want me to, right? Because that's not what I am. Step number one in getting help from me, if you call my office, the other thing that Dr. Haynes said was very important. Privacy and confidentiality are extremely important. It's federal law. Under federal law, when you call my office and ask me for help, the first thing that you're going to be asked is to fill out a privacy form. To sign it, saying, Congressman Johnson, I'm asking you this question. I've got this problem. I need you to go do something and connect me with somebody. That's legal. By law, I have to have that. If I don't have a privacy form from you, I can't turn a spade of dirt to help you with your problem until I get that privacy form. Once I get the privacy form, we will do everything in our power to connect you with people like Dr. Miller and Dr. Haynes to get your issues resolved. So just so you know what the rules of engagement are, I'm going to be your voice and I'm going to be with you in this journey for as long as it takes until you're satisfied. But even members of Congress have limitations under the law on what we can and cannot do. So I hope everybody understands that. I will come back to these. I will be here as often as I can. When I am not, this young lady over here, Dawn Baker, she has business cards for anybody that wants to get one to have access to my office. You can find the phone number to my office at billjohnson.house.gov. Go to the website. You can find us that way too. Our office is in Canfield. So we are available for you and to you, but there are limitations on what we can do as well without those privacy forms. So let's keep these information sessions going because all of these are very legitimate questions and you have every right to want answers to these questions.
Yes.
God bless you. Thanks.
Okay, and speaker right back here. And again, if you have any questions you want us to pose to our other health federal partners, please drop by. I'll write them down. And thank you, Aubrey, and thank you, Aaron. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, everybody.
To the public, thank you, and please reach out. If I can get doors, give you my email. I would like to talk with you further. So please, open door.
Thanks all.